In my short yet eventful life on this earth so far, there has been a phrase that has been thrown in my direction, probably more than it should have been. It's the phrase, famous last words. I remember not long after getting my driving license, I was driving in town with a friend, and although he pleaded with me to pay for parking, I told him that we were only staying a few minutes and that nothing would happen. He said, famous last words, and lo and behold, I got clamped. There was also this time that I was playing golf with my brother on my uncle's farm. When it came to his go to drive the ball down the field, I stood just off to the side. He told me to get back, but I said, it'll be grand. He said, famous last words, and I still have a lump on my forehead because the ball hit me so hard. I've actually been on the receiving end of someone's final departing words, and they had the most profound impact on me. His name was Larry, and he was my next door neighbor growing up. He was a postman, and he would have used one of those really old-fashioned postman bikes with a basket at the front. I remember in preschool, and because Larry worked the early morning slot at work, he would pick me up at midday, and I would journey home in the basket, living the absolute dream. I remember when I was a teenager, Larry would always be there for me. There were so many times I'd come home from school, I'd forget my keys, but Larry would always invite me in. We'd have some tea, we'd have some chocolate, and although he was 40 years my senior, he was still a dear friend. And so when he became terminally ill with cancer, it was devastating. He got to spend his last few days at home, where I got to chat with him just before he died. And I remember the encounter so well, the words that he said. I remember with a big smile on his face, he said that he was looking forward to seeing Jesus. And I was really taken aback. Like at the time, I was growing in my faith, but to see the joy in a dying man's eyes of this reality filled me with a deeper hope. And then, with tears starting to grow in his eyes, as he thought about some of his mistakes, and he told me about a particular friendship that he wasn't able to mend, he looked me right in the eye and he said, Johnny, above all else, be kind. These may be simple words, but that was 10 years ago. The conviction that it stirred in me then is still there to this day. Words matter, especially from someone you deeply respect, which makes departing words stand out even more. Consider all the parts of Jesus' life that we've looked at so far through these videos, all the incredible things that he said. Remember Thomas, the disciple? He was caught in a moment of doubt, and yet Jesus sought him out. He didn't punish his unbelief, but he said, touch my wounds, touch the places where the nails have pierced. Jesus' kindness helped to restore Thomas's faith. Or the woman who was caught in adultery and thrown at Jesus' feet. What she expected was judgment, and yet what she found was forgiveness and the life-changing words of Jesus to go and live a new life. So with all the incredible words that he spoke, what do you think he chose for his departing words? He had been killed and resurrected. He then spent some 40 days with his disciples. And just before he ascended into heaven, he left his followers with this: I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. These words aren't necessarily more important than any of his others. But above all else, Jesus wanted the focus of his disciples to be on others. He wanted to instill a deep conviction in their hearts that what they had received from him was not to be kept to themselves, but to be shared with the whole world. Sharing his words and his life-changing message was never to be a job for the experts, but for ordinary people like you and me. Jesus' departing words back then are just as valid today as we continue what the first disciples started. What has given me confidence to reach others and to share my faith is understanding the role that I play. It's not necessarily my job to convince anyone to have faith, but more to show people the door. Jesus has asked me to share the hope of his message that I have experienced and to trust God to do the rest. God is the one who makes himself known, and it's only God that transforms lives. It's a bit like making bread. There is so much flour involved, and yet the smallest bit of yeast transforms the whole thing. Jesus used this analogy when talking about the spread of his message. He said that the kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough. And here's the thing, we can be like that yeast. We can join Jesus at work as we share our faith and trust God that he will build his kingdom. Making bread and doing life with others often shares the same messy reality. There's loads of time involved. Sometimes it can get a bit sticky, but what is produced is always worth the effort. I've had a deep conviction in my heart to share my faith with others for the past 20 years. Now, it hasn't always been that way. My beliefs would have started in who Jesus is, and then as my relationship with God developed, I became convinced that what I had found is something that everyone needs. My challenge to you is to take these final departing words of Jesus seriously and to think of one friend that you could invite on the faith adventure. I hope that you'll be inspired and confident to use this series in order to start conversations with your friends that you never thought possible and to share the hope that you have in Jesus. It's not about the cool van or the Mini or even how amazing my bread looks. It's about believing that God can do way more than what we could ever imagine, and to truly believe that Jesus is with us as we take that step of faith and invite someone else along on the journey. I like to follow the example of the disciple Philip. When Jesus was going around asking people to be his disciples, he went to Philip and he said, "Follow me." And Philip instantly jumped on board and went and found his friend Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael's response was perfect. He said, "Nazareth? Can anything good come from there?" And what did Philip say? "Come and see." Many of our friends will have the same thoughts as that of Nathanael. They'll think Jesus, faith, Christianity. Can anything good come from that? And it's not necessarily up to us to have all the answers, and that's okay. But what we can do is ask someone to come and see. So think of one friend, pray to God to do his thing, and enjoy the adventure.